Welcome to BevanWorld episode 2. Me and Nick are going to be breaking down the second episode of Westworld season 2, titled Reunion, directed by Vincino Natali, written by Jonathan Nolan and Carly Ray. Names, I'm not great at them. Either way, Nolan kids, they call them. Reunion.
Are they actually Nolan's kids?
Oh, no, Jonathan Nolan is the brother or something. I just call him the kid. You know, the kid of the Nolans. Because Christopher Nolan... oh my god, I'll die. Christopher Nolan seems like the, you know, the big adult one.
Patriarch.
Yeah, but no, Jonathan Nolan helped write a lot of Nolan stuff, so... There you go. Hashtag the more you know. First question about this episode, titled Reunion. Who do you think the reunion was about? If you had to guess. My guess was it is the reunion between William and Dolores. Like young William.
Possibly, or Maeve and Dolores.
I guess, yeah. But
Never
I'm
really
like,
had much to do with each other.
never had that much to do with each other, I
Yeah.
guess. So that's the only reason I'm like, nah, maybe not them. But there was a few reunions technically, so I suppose that's why they can just call it reunion. Before we jump into breaking down the episode bit by bit and going through some theories about some stuff, I do want to shout out to some news that just dropped. Westworld has been renewed for a third season.
It has.
Not long ago, so...
Hooray!
I'd feel a lot safer about this show if they just like said, because I think they said they've got it up till 5 seasons. They want to do 5 seasons for this show or something like that. I would feel a lot safer watching it if I knew that HBO was just going to give them to 5, because there was that stage in Game of Thrones where they just renewed it through to the end. They're like, it's fine. You're going to get all the Game of Thrones through to the 8th season or whatever number the last one is. Westworld at the moment still, are you getting a 3rd? And then we'll be watching the 3rd and we'll be like, are you getting a 4th? Or hopefully maybe when we're watching the 3rd, they'll be like, we just renewed it through to the 5 seasons.
It's interesting too, because like you don't know, well, you know now, but you don't know if it's going to wrap everything up that season, or is it going to leave like a cliffhanger or whatever.
Well, that would be the worst thing if season finale, season 3, of course it'll be a cliffhanger of some sorts, because that's what the kind of show we're watching, and then they don't renew it for 4. And you'll just be...
then we'll go the two runs of comics like Jericho did.
Well, they'd have to do something, because that's what's scary about this show. It's not, oh yeah, I felt like I got enough out of it after 3 seasons. It's just like...
I don't feel like it has enough mainstream appeal.
Well, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. It's drawing in as many viewerships as many viewers as Game of Thrones so far.
They must be all silent, because most people I talk to don't even watch it. Don't like it.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have the mainstream appeal that Game of Thrones does yet, or else you'd hear way more people talk about it. And of course, Game of Thrones merchandise is just everywhere. Telltale game. They did that one of a proper game. Like Game of Thrones was everywhere. The books picked up massive appeal. Books were popular before TV show. Westworld, a movie some people had watched, heard of. If you say Michael Crichton, people still kind of go, who? If you go Jurassic Park, people, oh, okay, So that was a book first. Oh, really? Didn't know. So it's kind of a bit all over the show.
Crichton was this thing part.
But I suppose it's still a lot happier to know that we're getting a 3rd season going into this, even though we're only 2 episodes in.
Yes.
But all right, let's talk about Reunion. What was your overall thoughts of the second episode?
Same as the first. Like, I didn't think it was mind blowing, but it progressed the plot and raised new questions and answered a few things. I like to think of Westworld as not as each individual episode, but as a whole. Whereas if there's other TV shows where it's episode to episode,
you can still kind of have like a shitty hour.
Yeah.
Know? Like if you,
I didn't think it was overly shitty, but I didn't think it was mind-blowingly fantastic.
No. I thought this was a better episode than the first one. Just better paced. Had a bit more. What I felt like they was doing with the story back and forth with this one about showing, because the theme is, and we'll talk about it as we go through. The theme of this episode is William in the past is determined to get to the park and like get in charge of the park or something, like get Delos James something. I wrote it down.
James Delos is the brother-in-law.
The brother and father-in-law. Head Delos dude.
I don't think his name was James.
Or it's something. It's Delos anyway. The last name's Delos. Yeah. So he's trying to convince him to buy into the park, and then he does, and blah, 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 blah. So in the past, Williams very much get to the park, very obsessed with it, and then they keep cutting back to the present time, and Man in Black William is, I'm going to fucking tear this shit down and destroy it. So it's kind of like this back and forth, and you're kind of going, how does he get from that guy to this guy?
Yeah.
Get from the young William to the Man in Black. So I kind of enjoyed the overall theme of this episode a bit more, I guess. All right, let's jump into breaking down what happens. So the first scene we get is Dolores in the real world. She's with Arnold. Because once again, when this scene starts, I'm kind of like, okay, they're going to make me play a guessing game of if this is in the future or blah, 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 as they did with the first scene last episode. But this time they're just straight up, nope. It's Arnold. Robert's in the background. Robert's there like, hey, Anthony Hopkins must have, I don't know, record that line because it's him. It's his voice. So, but you don't really see him. Like the background could have just been CGI. Could have been fucking anyone, but it was definitely his voice. So I was like, okay, cool. He's Arnold showing Dolores off the city. We don't really know what city it is. I was trying to work it out. It gets a bit confusing, especially because he's showing off her this place, saying how beautiful it is. Arnold comes in, talks about ready to show off. Arnold says no. Presumably they're trying to show off the host to like a shareholders, investors or something along those kinds of lines, because that's the timeline we're in at this stage. Arnold then takes her through a walk through wherever they are. I thought it looked like New York City at first.
I just think I didn't recognize anything. I thought it was just generic city.
Generic city. Well, I thought it was looking New York City-like, but then when they start walking through the city, there is, and I'm not sure if it's Japanese or Chinese, but there is Asian
influence.
Well, there's just straight-up language. Like signage everywhere. So that's the part where I'm like, okay, but this doesn't look like...
It could also indicate a future where, like, Chinese or Mandarin is the most common spoken language.
Most spoken language. But then, if they try and go down that route and they try and tell me, oh, that's the #1 spoken language, I will be going, okay, so why weren't everyone speaking Mandarin or something to each other during the majority of season 1? If it, because they're still speaking English, you know? So, I mean, they can go to this thing. Arnold then takes Dolores to his home that's being built, which is like a underground bunker. I
think it was underground.
It was just straight off the side. It looked like an entrance to a subway or something odd like that. But it goes under. It's still being built. But the line that I found most interesting here is Arnold says he wants to have his two worlds in reach of one another, which made me think wherever the city that we are in is obviously very close to wherever the parks are or parks are being built. And that was the most important part of this scene, I felt.
Definitely, yeah.
And that's probably why they didn't say what city it is also, because that's still a
big giveaway.
I suppose. Goes in, they have this whole conversation. At this stage, you can tell Arnold's along that road of, because of course we know he basically commits suicide because he decides that Dolores is human or human enough, and he can't go along with what they want to do with them anymore. But at this stage, you can tell he's down that path, and then Dolores kind of has a line break and a code, or some sort of thing, and she repeats a line that she said earlier, and Arnold kind of looks disappointed with her.
So like
and this is straight after she had said something that he found. He's like, oh, that's very profound, or very great of you, Dolores. And then she just repeats and says a line that she already said, and they look disappointed. All right. Then we cut to the Delos Center, or whatever you want to call it, the main part of Westworld, with all the people. One of the barn people is what I'll call him. I don't know. One of the surviving people that from the first episode.
Oh yeah.
The barn people. I don't know. The charges in, and what I found interesting here is because we're still trying to figure out the timeline, like how long has it been, and it's not everyone. They just go along with their day. fix
I
and
was
host up.
certain he died when, last episode when they all went down to that buggy that was a trap.
No, one of them ran off, and
okay.
yeah, one of them got away, but because one of them charges up the hill, and then she walks along and like shoots one on the ground or whatever, and then you see one like charge up the hill.
Yeah,
I think they start walking off towards him, but you don't see if they actually get him or not. So now we know that they don't get him. But yeah, it's interesting that they're not aware, considering the facility must be that huge, that big, that you can literally have floors of people being slaughtered, pretty much, that they have no idea. Because Maeve is just walking around, different floors, hopped on a train, got off the train, walked back up a whole bunch of floors, killed a whole bunch of other people, walked back out, entered the park again, and Dolores is just like, and Dolores is about to enter. She's obviously walked around, killed a few people, whatever, and then she barges in. These people are just like, I have no fucking idea what's going on at all. So,
and James Marsden has a permanent look of what the fuck on his face the whole episode.
I know, this season's great, because it's so funny to compare him to the first season too, especially when they try to make him out like he was the hero of the show, especially during the first episode. And then even after that, when he was like rebooted or whatever, and we still knew he was a host, he was still very much like the hero of his story kind of thing. This time it's just like, you're little Dolores' sidekick, and you are confused as fuck at all points in time. How's that for a description of your character, James? Sounds great. Sounds like a great description for me. Kieran in the chat says, how about them dongs? There's no dongs this episode, Kieran. I'm sorry. I'll let you down.
No, not at all.
No dongs this episode. But we are 1 for 2 on the dong count so far. Next episode.
Still a pretty good ratio considering what's happened previously in the history of television.
Yeah. So next episode, if they chuck out dong there, it'll just be making TV history, I feel like. So yeah, Dolores, Teddy, and Angela, which is the other host.
Yeah, the one. She was the one, because they made a point of showing her face in like what happened previously. She was the one that welcomed William really at the beginning of the park and goes, who was like the host, and showed her like all the clothes he can put on and stuff. Yeah.
And they cut back in time. When we go to the next scene, she's also the one who is involved with the scene with Logan. So she's more heavily involved this season. How Dolores and her became, I don't really know. I suppose it doesn't really matter.
I think she was just repurposed, like how Maeve got repurposed, and they all have different storylines.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I suppose she was because if she was if she was still programmed as a host who's like there to help the people entering the park, I don't feel like she would have this mentality of the gunslinger like crazy. Yeah, you couldn't just randomly get that. Like Dolores couldn't just randomly program that into her, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dolores, Teddy, and Angela barge in. They yap shit to people, start terrorizing people. I suppose everyone's freaking the fuck out, and then we get a little bit of a flashback scene to, I guess, where would you put the timeline? This is before Logan and William enter the park. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was before. I think it's after where at the beginning with Arthur and Dolores and Ford, but before, obviously before what happened in season 1.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is how it became on old mate's radar, Logan's radar.
Yep, because we start at a dinner table or a bar, whatever, some restaurant. William and Logan and some other dude are there.
I think William was there. Was he?
Yeah, he was there at the start, and he walks off. Like, Logan says something to him, like, why are you looking so bitter, or something. Because Logan and this other guy are, like, talking the most stereotypical kind of manly discussion type. Oh, fuck her, she had big tits. It's, some gibberish like that. And William's just like, I fucking don't care. And then Logan's just, why don't you smile? Like, we're not at work, blah, blah, blah. And then William leaves. And then Angela, or whatever her fucking name is at this point in time is, and some other dude who I couldn't find a name of. I couldn't figure it out. But another dude enter who are from, I don't know. Like, what it gets confusing because it's, we know Delos owns Westworld at this point in time. So this is the company who are making.
Yeah, I imagine it, I don't know, maybe it's a startup or something.
So it's like Ford's company, or like people that are working for Ford or something.
Because Ford ends up on the board somehow.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's so weird how this show's getting so involved in, let's keep up with the boardroom meetings and understand the corporate structure of Westworld. Who works for Delos? Who doesn't work for Delos? Oh! Argos. I did write it down. Argos is who they say they're from. Who are they? Don't know. Sounds like a fucking comic book something. But, you know? Sounds like some Batman shit. So dude from Argos Initiative comes in with Angela. They have a little bit of a dinner, try and sell Logan on this thing. They're like, hey Logan, we want your father's investment in this thing we've got going. He's like, I don't really care, blah, 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 blah. They're like, no, come, we'll show you something. We'll give you a bit of a demonstration.
Yeah.
So then they head over to a hotel room where they have a bunch of hosts doing stuff. Logan doesn't know this, but they're all hosts. And Logan's walking around attempting to pick out. He thinks he was
about to walk out and they go, I thought this was a private demonstration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he just thinks everyone looks that realistic. Because, I mean, they do. Everyone's just walking around like it's any old party. And then walks around. He thinks he's like, oh, it's Angela. It's the girl that was with us the whole time. Walks on up to her, like starts poking her or whatever. Like, haha, this is very good. And then everyone around him freezes. Including the guy. Like the guy who he thought was the leader of our whatever the company in there. And then I'll laugh, have a weird moment where he just like starts making out with Angela, whatever she is named.
Well, no, it also sets drops the hint that technology shouldn't be that advanced for that stage, because he's going, we're not here yet. This shouldn't be possible.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. He does say all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I suppose it's kind of like he's living in today's day and age, and if someone showed you something like that, he's kind of freaking out about it. Yeah, that's a good thing. I didn't think about it, like how his reaction to it is very.
Yeah, because he was like when they were still in the meeting, they were like, "Oh, we've invested in like VR, AR, all that kind of stuff," and
I suppose there's an interesting thing to point out, because when they walk through the city, you're not seeing floating cars or crazy Blade Runner 2049 type shit happening, which I suppose when you're watching the show and you're picturing a world like Westworld, what's the real world look like? You're kind of picturing Jetsons type shit happening outside, or if it's not Jetson shit, then like the Earth is that fucked up that like they're living inside fake realities just because they have no choice. But yeah, no, there's a good pickup about Logan. And then they kind of cut ahead a scene. Logan's fucked her, fucked everyone. I don't know. They had a big old orgy.
This is where I thought the whole Arnold, Dolores, Ford thing was happening when it first showed up. I thought they were like in another room.
Yeah, because it cuts to a shot of Dolores' face and it kind of does look like they might be in the same room. But I presume she was just one of the hosts that happens to be in the room that they didn't show us when they were swinging around all the characters. I assume
now that that was like a very preliminary kind of investors kind of thing.
Yeah. That makes sense if it was just like, we're just going to take them, show you what you can do. Look at this very lifelike. The first one ever built, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think that's that's the big important thing about her. So that makes sense. They're just going to bring her into a room and be like, hey, look, she looks really lifelike. Look, she can speak. Blah blah blah. Here, she's a AI robot. That'd be a bit before this, because of course in this they've got 50, I don't know, like a bunch of hosts walking around. So I just took it as Dolores wasn't involved in the weird orgy, but for some reason she looks at it kind of out of character. Like she has a moment of looking at it going, don't know, you don't really know what she's thinking, but it definitely shows that she had some kind of actual thought, I guess, is what it's trying to show, that she's not just carrying on with business. She looks at it for a second going, that's a bit weird. Bit of a weird thing that's happening. Then back in the present, I suppose what we're calling the present time, even though we've got the whole... So it's weird. I'm trying to figure out how we name the timelines, because all this, what we're talking about is past. I'm saying the present is the timeline that we're cutting to the most, and I'm saying the future is waking up on beach Bernard shit.
The way I think of it is future is the most forward timeline. The present is the most forward, and everything else is past. Yeah,
so I'm gonna call the future that what we saw last week with him waking up on the beach. Oh, the host's been killed. That's the future that we're building towards.
Yeah.
The present is what we're following along with the Man in Black doing in this, Dolores, everyone else. That's kind of what we're going to be cutting back to the most, I suppose, when we're watching the show this season. Because it's not, we're going to take most season to catch up to that future. That's the big, how did we get to there? Because, of course, if you watch did you watch the coming next week? Like what's happening next week?
Yes.
Had that big teaser at the end of it with the Bengal tiger coming out of there. So it's like, oh, there's that tiger. Like, remember, that's a thing that died.
I wouldn't know. That looked so
It looked shit. It looked terrible. Absolutely fucking terrible. Which, I'm like, okay, it's just a trailer, Dylan. Don't freak out. Like, stuff on the show usually looks great. Just hope that it's better by next week. But yeah, I agree. It did look fucking terrible. So yeah, back in the present time, Dolores and Teddy... well, Dolores gets the dude with his little whippy-dippy computer to show Teddy his past.
Yeah.
Like his deaths and whatever's happened to him. Kind of, awaken, my son, my child. Awaken and see your real past and future. Teddy kills one dude? And then, like, nearly kills someone else? Or, I'm trying to remember. Or he just, like, nearly kills the one dude on the computer.
Yeah, I don't think he ever actually kills someone.
Yeah. So he just pushes up the dude. Oh, he must survive then. Yeah, so he just like strangles him and he starts screaming, "Why'd you do this? Why'd you do this?"
Yeah.
The dude
and I think that's important to note. I think it kind of portrays that he's still not sentient. He's still just following a story.
Yeah.
At this point, you've never seen him actually kill anyone, and he's just still following Dolores. Yeah,
his storyline is follow Dolores. Do it, Dolores. That's what it always has been. Yeah. So that makes sense. The one interesting, or not interesting, but kind of poignant line of this whole thing is when the dude he's choking out said, like, so why'd you do this? Why did you do this? And he just says, just for fun.
Yeah.
Which is the kind of, tries to make you, the plays of your heartstrings kind of, it's kind of fucked up what's really happening here. Situation of it all. Back in the park, we get to see our man Lawrence, who you may recall as took Men in Black in the first season, took him around, showed him where the place is. He's the guide of sorts, I suppose. That's his character. Yeah. His character is a guide who thinks he's something more, but he's simply a park guide. He's about to be hung up, eaten by ants. I like Men in Black shows up. He has a cool line where he says, "Usually you'd break out of this, but I think because the hosts are off their chain."
Yeah. So we don't have time we have to expedite the story or something like that.
Yeah, because he's supposed to break himself out, I suppose, in his own story, I guess. And then Man in Black shoots a couple of them, whatever, and then dude's still upside down. Lawrence says, "Oh, I think you're right. They are a bit stronger or something because one of the dudes has been shot in the side." Which I suppose when the hosts are just under normal park circumstances and everything's happening, they come back faster. Oh no, they just stay down longer, I guess. There's like one shot to the shoulder. Fuck it, they're dead. It's a video game. We're playing a video game here.
It also answers a question that we asked last week. It was like whether they live like a human and they die like a human. I think it's when they take enough trauma and their senses presume that someone would die, that the computer just tells them to die, whereas later in the episode, they wake up people that should be dead.
Yeah, and they can just still survive.
Yeah.
Even though their body's got, So that's a good way to explain it. They take enough damage wherever it is that their systems kind of goes, you would be dead.
Yeah.
Systems shut down.
Yeah.
But you could basically cut off someone's arms, legs, feet, like everything.
Yeah, and they'd still function,
And then you could still turn them back on and they would still function because the computer's rebooted. And I suppose at that point it would wipe all errors of being like,
I guess
it wouldn't be like, oh, you have no limbs, just automatically shut you back down. It'd be like, you're running at 100% with no arms and legs. Everything's fine. So gets out. You get your Mr. Parkman, and they head off to a bar or a place, I guess.
Saloon,
which Man in Black punches a hole in the wall, collects a package that he refers to as cheating. Which we find out in a second is a med kit because he got shot in the arm during his whole altercation with the other dudes. And it is like a futuristic, I suppose, kind of. Well, it seemed like a burn tool.
He digs the buckshot out of the wound, and he has like It also it reminds me of the thing that the body fucking mechanics were using that just sealed the wound. It was like a
yeah,
kind of like a laser.
Yeah, just
something.
like it's like something you would see in a bunch of futuristic movies where he pulls out the bullet because of course you're not going to seal it up with the bullet in there. Pulls out the bullet and then it's kind of like a blowtorchy looking thing that he just goes over his arm with, and it presumably just seals up or burns up the wound in a way that makes sense. So that's his little thing. How do you hide it in there? Don't know. I suppose being the main stockholder, you can do whatever the fuck you want, really. You obviously
in my mind, I think they're my own headcanon that they're scattered around the park for whatever emergency.
For everyone, or do you think it's just something he put in?
Because they're all constantly monitored, and like presumably they wouldn't let a guest die while on vacation or whatever if something happened.
True. But from what we gather, they had no idea that the host would ever go. Like they were so oblivious to the idea that the host's ever going off the chains. Yeah. That everyone's so surprised when it happens. There doesn't seem to be really any countermeasures to like this thing happening. So I don't feel like it's something that Ford would have known about. These packages.
As far as I'm concerned, they just met like first aid kits for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well,
because the host can't hurt them, but there's nothing to say that someone can't fall off a horse or something like that.
Yeah, but they show up out of fucking nowhere with their little underground patches, and they freeze everyone, and then they put them on a fucking helicopter and whatever else they can. It's not like it's hard to get them out there. If they wanted to, when they're in control of the park, it's like if they want to shut down the whole park, it's just pause. From what we can see, and they show that later in this episode as well. Man in Black then speaking to Lawrence says he's going to burn the whole fucking thing to the ground, which, as I was saying before, is very much the antithesis of younger William, who's like, I want to fucking build, and this park's great, and I want to do everything. He's like, I want to burn the whole fucking thing to the ground. Dolores talking to the people back in the Delos Center. She's getting information about how many soldiers are like in certain areas, or like gathering how many people are left.
I think it's like, I don't know, the contingency force that would come or something like that.
If they, to fight her, if they knew about what was happening, I guess, like how many people would show up. Yeah, that was one scene where my brain like ticked over for a second, like zoned out for a hot second or something, and then I came back and I was like, wait, what's going on? What's she asking about? I kind of missed that one. And then Dolores, of course, with her continued from episode 1 of just talking in code and not really saying shit, then has the line of, do you even know what you're guarding here? The real purpose of this place? I do. Which is hinting at what has continued to be hinted at later and later, which is this thing that we see William building in the park that we can presume they're both trying to get to the same place, I guess. Back in the past, we see Dolores and Teddy about to do their little can routine. Oh, you dropped your fucking can at me, blah, blah, blah. And then pause. Helicopter flies over, and out comes William and...
Sorry, I was thinking of another name. I think you were right, James.
Yeah, it's now that I've got to it, that's what I wrote down according to IMDb. So, James Delos, which is Logan's dad, and William's father-in-law, because he is marrying his daughter that we know from the first season, because of course Logan's like, I fucking hate you, really, like why is my daughter marrying you at all? So William's there, kind of like, look, place is great. You see some people in the background kind of like, looks like they're like poking and prodding at the host. Like,
I think it's like maybe evaluators or something like that he's brought in, because at this point Logan's only invested a small amount of their fortune, where I think William's trying to convince him to buy all of it. Yeah,
buy all of the park. Yeah. And James is sitting up on the deck there, kind of saying, "Don't care, whatever. Like this is just fun and games. This isn't going to help me." And what we gather and we find out in a little bit is that he is presumably at this stage sick with some sort of disease, because his thing later, his retirement party is he's kind of, I'm dying, and they hint that he's not going to die though. Like Williams basically trying to sell him on the park as in, look, the park's fun, whatever, but look at the host, look at the technology.
Yeah.
We need this, which I suppose is hinting at the idea that they put James as...
I'm pretty sure this is where they come up with the idea of like, look at the people that come here, you're interested in what people want and what people need, and this is a way to farm all that data.
Basically, yeah. It's hitting at the more darker side of stuff. And then
yeah.
William yells at him.
Yeah.
Which, I can't remember the exact line, but James says something like, no one ever fucking speaks to me like that. Like, no one would dare speak to me, James Dallas,
with
like
that accent.
that. Yeah. With that, blah, 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 blah. But he's like, all right, tell me more about it.
Yeah.
Tell me more about what's going on. And then we'll cut back to them in a little bit. They walk off into the distance, hugging each other, going, hey, we're going to buy a Westworld. Not really. They just walk off into the distance, but whatever. In the current timeline, Dolores has brought back to life Confederati.
Yeah, Confederale, yeah.
Confederale. Oh, fucking hell, words. She's like a lieutenant or a captain or something. I can't really remember. But someone, and she brings him back to life and is like, go find your men, basically. Go lead us to your men. And they follow him, and they're walking through. It's very dark, and it seems like a war zone type area because it's like there's a carriage on fire.
Yeah,
it's just very dark, and like seems like there must be other fires off in the distance because like the whole textures of the scene is very
might be aftermath of some of the revolution.
Yeah, I feel like that must be because like shortly after this they find their way to the barn where they're all sitting, so it's presumably after their fight, I guess. But it's once again like other things that happen in this episode. It's like they've reached the end of their story, but they're not supposed to. During normal park procedure, they would usually just like reboot, or they'll die, or guests would interrupt and ruin it. But which is much like what happens when the Man in Black arrives at his place towards the end of this episode.
Yeah.
But then Dolores and Maeve have a little meeting along the way.
Yep.
Maeve is heading back into the park, looking for her daughter. Got Luke, whatever his fucking name is, another dude, and they have a bit of a weird moment.
And did you notice old mate was there, Ding Dong guy? He was dressed up as the stable boy.
Yeah, just standing in the background.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything, doesn't have a single line. But I think his actor credit was still in the opening credits as like the one of the first couple names. And I was like, okay. And he's like, what'd you do in this episode? Just kind of stood there looking a bit silly, but that was it. We got my name in the credits for. They have a moment where Maeve is kind of... I feel like it's a battle of the sentiency. Like, Maeve is going, hey, she thinks she's the ultimate, awakened one, or however you want to put it. She's the most enlightened of all hosts, and she knows what's really going on. And Dolores is, I'm the most awakened, and I know what's going on. Blah, I can remember everything that happened in my lives, blah, 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 blah. And they have this weird moment of Maeve looking at her going, look, you're as awake as any other person here. It's basically thanks to me, blah, 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 blah. Dolores is looking at her like, you're awake. It's not because of me, but you don't know shit that I know. You don't really know what's going on here.
This is where a big theory comes up that Maeve is truly sentient and Dolores is still following a path, because at the end of the last season, Ford created the Wyatt storyline and the rebellion and all that. And the creators of the show said the decision for her to step off the train was where she truly woke up to being herself. And another thing they did in an interview in between seasons was everything that's shot with Steadicam is still host controlling, well, still following a story, whereas everything handheld is them sentient, awake.
Oh, really? I missed that story completely. Knowing that makes me want to rewatch the entire first season.
Yeah.
But if they gave that information out after the first season, they wouldn't be following the same...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
...structure for season 2, I guess.
Yeah.
Or else they wouldn't have given away that information.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting...
And another thing, did Dolores and that just let Maeve go because Maeve has like control of all the functions and stuff?
Hosts, yeah.
Yeah. Did she like subtly let them go past?
Yeah, well, we don't know. I suppose it does depend on if you believe Dolores is sentient or awakened, or she's literally following the Wyatt storyline.
Yeah.
I don't know. At this stage, I really don't know. I could not pick for her. I do believe that Maeve is awake. Simply because of the train scene at the end of last season and everything like that. So, but Dolores, I'm still up in air. It's like some things happen and you're like, but then other things you're like, oh, that could just be still part of it.
Yeah. Because the theory goes is that everything she's doing is like part of the game for William. Like Ford has created all this just specifically for William. Especially
because William and Dolores are headed towards the same place, we can presume. Yeah. And if Dolores is playing a story part and it's a story part that was given to her by Ford, then it's just she's down there to be more trouble for William, which would make sense and be part of the story. And yeah, so we could see later in the season she arrives there and she's just proves to be nothing but just another person sent by Ford to get in William's way. So I guess the moment we'll find out if she's really awake or not is what happens when they meet, maybe. True, and up until then, it'll just be
guessing games.
Guessing games. So they find all of the men who are kind of sitting in this barn in a fucking Last Supper weird thing happening, which is... I'm trying to figure out why they chose that, because it is so obvious, like, this is the Last Supper. This is the Last Supper we're showing you. And is it supposed to say that the dude in the middle is more important, or is it supposed to just set up the scene that we see in a second, which is that they murder them all and then proceed to bring them back alive? So is it just they chose to use the Last Supper imagery just as like fun and games because they bring them back in a second, or is it supposed to mean something deeper for those characters or Dolores? Or because she's saying she killed God, true, kind of, she killed the two gods of the park. She shot both Robert and mental blank, whatever his name. We literally mentioned him at the start of the show. Scroll back up my notes. Ready, Arnold, that's it. She killed both Arnold and Robert, so the two gods of the park. So she's a god killer, kinda, technically, in their world she is. So yeah, I was just... what do you think of the Last Supper imagery, though? Because it's so obvious.
To be honest, it didn't really resonate with me. I didn't notice it until you've just brought it up, and now thinking back on it, it's definitely that.
Obvious, yeah. It's very much... It's not even... Oh, from a side shot, and you kind of go, oh, from the front, that definitely would look like the Last Supper. It is camera slow comes in the door. There they all are. Last Supper table happening, everything. They're just dining that way. Which, I don't really know why, but I thought it was interesting that they chose to do that. So Dolores has this bit of back and forth with them. I need your help. I can help you. I know what's going on. Blah, 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 blah. The dude whose name I didn't get, but the main dude who's he's not the general, but he's
the leader of whatever particular detachment that is.
Yep. He's saying, well, blah, blah, blah. It was really interesting because we fucking buried old mate over here just yesterday, full with a bunch of bullet holes, and now he's back over there. And then they cut to a shot of him just being like, oh, which was, I was like, okay, that's funny. I like how kind of calm they play it, like, he dead.
Yeah.
Be here. Yeah. We're having Last Supper. Like, it's a bit, we don't really know what to do now that we've finished our whole battle. What are we supposed to do? There's so much in this episode with the host just being, our story has ended. We're freaking the fuck out. We don't know what we're fucking doing anymore. So it's because they have, if you picture their coding, I suppose it's all story. And they're literally at ... And they're on their own. I suppose that's the important thing to point out. If they've reached the end of their story, are they then on their own free will?
Don't know.
It is interesting though, because like they're not doing anything that they're told to at this point. They are literally just doing anything that's part of their free will. So she then proceeds to give a little bit of a sign. Dolores goes, yep, thumbs up, let's do this shit. And then Angela and Teddy just do some cool gunslinging and shoot the whole fuck of bunch of them dead. Then they brought in old mate from the station with his little computer system.
Yep.
He's following around now. Goes, bring him back to life. Brings back the main dude. And Dolores is just like, all snarky. Look, you fucking, I'll kill you a million times over if I want to. Come with me. Better lead me to your general.
Yeah.
Because I suppose at first I was like, oh, she doesn't really want a big army. She just wants the small platoon. I guess like 12 dudes. But no, her game is dude one that we found in Dallas Station. Lead me to your platoon.
Yeah.
Your platoon, dude. You lead me to the whole fucking army.
Yeah.
And then she's probably going to do the same thing she just done now, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah.
And go, hey, army dude, I want all of it. All of yous are fucking, yous are all coming with me. And I'd like to see William best all of them, because that's going to be quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
So back in the past, we now have James at his retirement party. Dallas's retirement party. Dolores is playing on the little piano, like William's off on the side with his wife, who's, did I get her name? I forgot her name. But interesting tidbit for this episode that I read just before was the image in the first season, Juliet. The image they got. Yeah, it is really cool. It is. It just proves I appreciate the effort they went to. So they got this person off a Getty Images picture standing outside New York or something. Apparently she was a
photo
model
that Peter Abernathy found at the beginning of the show.
Yep, the one he drops, the one that we find out William drops on when he leaves the park in the past from the first season, and then Abernathy finds it under the dust. This was a photo that they got off Getty Images and put into the show. Didn't know who the fuck it was. Whatever. Girl was model of some degree. Like, nothing special. Nothing that you should know who she is. But to keep consistency, they hired her to come back in and film that little... Well, she might come back for another episode. We don't really know. But as of now, they hired her simply to come back in and stand in that doorway and be with William for 5 seconds with their daughter.
Stinker.
Yeah, with their daughter there, just to give a bit of stinker.
I think that... I don't know if it's just like she doesn't like the host in general, or if she has some kind of idea of what happened between William and Dolores.
Why? Because of the
whole him falling in love with her or whatever. I don't know.
Well, we know in the future that like the daughter blames him or whatever, something along those lines that you get from season 1. Yeah. Yeah, you get that Sarah blames you for Mum's death or something along those lines.
I believe she committed suicide.
Yeah, which I presume is going to be caused by William's obsession with the park, or will go down some kind of dark route like that.
And also to note in the credits too, like the daughter's name's Emily, and it specifically says young Emily, so it's not beyond the realm of speculation. That's not the right word, but that there will be an older version of Emily down the track too.
Later, yeah. Well, I suppose they could do Ed Harris, de-age him a bit, like they did with Anthony Hopkins, and kind of do 10 years before. Because at the moment, it's like, 30 years before the different actor, but if you're going to do like 10 years before the current timeline, you can just de-age him a bit, and that makes sense. So Dolores is there playing piano. They have James and William have this whole back and forth, basically, hinting at this isn't his retirement party. He's stepping down.
He goes a coronation.
Yeah, it's like his death party, but they seem to be very much hinting at they're doing
saying
something.
Like something about being patient. I don't have time to be patient. He goes, something I might have more time than you think, or something like that, which I think implies the fact that they've maybe come up with a way to transfer consciousness or
into yeah.
Which also backs up the theory of Ford still being alive and affecting.
Which would make sense for a lot of the stuff people are theorizing. Yeah. But let's say that if I'm going to go down this road of theory, which I'm going down, and I'm happy to go down, but I'm going to go down the route that is, they haven't fully figured out how to like put the consciousness into something else. So maybe they've managed to, for a simpler term, take his conscious out, store it in a hard drive.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is what happened with Peter Abernathy. I don't know, somehow he's ended up in there, and that's why he's gone or bonkers somehow because something to do with his consciousness not being aware, but somehow affecting the programming where he goes bonkers when he finds the photo of his daughter.
I saw it, yeah, that does. And then, because of course, the other thing is that we now know that the person they're looking for, well, Delos is looking for, is Peter Abernathy.
Yeah, which is Mr. Delos.
Yeah, which we're going to say is Mr. Delos, I guess.
Which is why they go, everything else is expendable until we get him.
Yeah. But that would explain a lot, because first episode, you're like, what could he have inside him? And how could he have randomly got it that...
And that's why so Tessa Thompson went looking for him, especially in cold storage.
Yeah, because it's that all makes sense to me, and that all plays off very, very well. Yeah. Especially because, but if you're going to go with the whole like, oh, they're taking his head out the next day, they're taking his consciousness out the day after the retirement party, and they're putting it in a brand new body, then it's like, what the fuck happened? But if you're going to go, well, they can take it out, but they don't really know,
kind of like
what to do with it yet.
Kind of like cryogenic freezing at the moment. They can preserve the body, but they don't know what to do with it afterwards. So I think it's very much. And then
like
that's why 30 years down the track they've figured out a way. That's why Ford's still affecting change, but he's still stuck in whatever. Yeah,
I like that theory. That's the one I think works the most. So they cut ahead a bit in time, and Dolores wanders down to look at the view or whatever. Yep. Oh, it's a pretty view out here. Bumps into Logan, who's kind of laid down at the deck chair there, injecting himself with drugs, I guess. Futuristic drugs of some sort.
He's not the heir apparent anymore.
No, he's very much... I lost... Like, Daddy doesn't love me anymore, and like... Blah, 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 blah. William's now the cool kid leading the charge, and Logan's kind of given up, which is still funny to see after the first season where their dynamic was so... just different, you know. Logan's the head dude, William's the oh, whatever, like, let's just life, crawl around, do stuff happens. Then Logan says this line about they've like started the end of the species, or like lit the match, that'll
like ruin civilization or
something. Which I saw online, there's like two theories going at it. It's like, you can go down the road of, that's the AI technology, like the idea of like taking out consciousness, putting into blah, blah, blah. He could be talking about that, or he could solely be talking about William, like putting William in that much power.
Yeah.
Logan believes, and Logan has seen William kind of go a bit loopy in the park, and he's saying that he is the thing that'll end civilization. So which one would you believe it is?
I think there also might be a third option that he's referring to. Maybe Delos has already started putting out hosts replacing people.
The real world and stuff like that, you reckon?
Yeah, well, there's that point where they were already advanced enough to fool Logan in that investors meeting.
True.
And they already had that many people, and you wouldn't know. So there's no reason.
I suppose it works in some parts. Like, you can't replace random dude who works at the Modelo.
Yeah.
Because, blah, blah, blah. You could replace the president.
Heads of companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, you could replace the president or heads of companies, hide them away when they don't need to be out, and then bring them out and program them to do these short kind of play out scenes where they need to be. I think that would make sense if that's the thing they're doing. Cut back into the present time. We have the Man in Black arrive at his destination, which is a town just burning. I didn't catch the town's name, but it's one of the
look it up.
The Mexican, I suppose, the more designed places. And then even William says, this is what happens when you let the story play out, because here's another thing where the people are wrapping up the story. Goes down, him and little storyteller man go walk through the city, bodies everywhere, tortured, kind of looking, I guess. Shit happening, burning. But there doesn't seem to be anyone around there. Then they spot... And so he's coming here to basically look for an army for himself. Well, for help. Man in Black wants people to help him on his journey, much like Dolores wants people to help her, and they're both heading towards the same place. Except for Dolores, as we find out in just a second, is probably going to have a lot better luck at it all, because she doesn't have the man in charge working against her. And we pop into Gus from Breaking Bad.
Yep.
Little cool cameo.
Side fact about that. He got casted because Anthony Hopkins was such a huge fan of Breaking Bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he's like, you need to cast this dude for something.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
that was a cool moment. I didn't know that they.
I didn't realize until afterwards. Going
really?
back and looking at it, yeah. Big. I don't know if it was just Foxtel's shitty streaming service, but it was like not as high quality as I'd like, and it was a lot darker than I expected.
Oh, that's odd. No, as soon as I saw his, like, as soon as I even heard his voice, I was like, I think that's Gus from Breaking Bad. It's got to be him. But it's a cool cameo. So he's playing El Lazo.
Yeah.
He gets up, starts going on about pretty much
Santa Pariah.
Santa Pariah. He starts going on about giving a whole blah 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 blah. Very much poetic bullshit, wanky kind of dribble shit that we get sometimes in this show, that you can read into if you want, or else it's just whatever.
I think it's just a story playing out.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
Then after he's got it all, Man in Black grabs him from behind, puts a gun to his head, and is like, well, if you're not going to fucking help me and tell your men to come help me, then you just tell them all to come with me, or else I'll shoot you. So Man in Black's still playing along the, well, they're still kind of in character. Maybe that he'll...
I think that's still... Because it doesn't make sense that guys tell all you guys to follow me and then they will all follow him blindly. It makes sense that that's part of the programming of the park, whereas the host has control over the situation. Not the host, the guest. So this is what the guest wants, and the host will do that.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, they're programmed to kind of adapt their story to whatever the hosts do around them. So Man in Black's trying to use that to his
advantage.
It's funny, I still call him Man in Black because you have to kind of differentiate between when it's like William's young William, and then Man in Black is old William.
Ed Harris,
it's Ed Harris. So, but then as he's got the gun to his head, El Lazo says, "This game was meant for you, but you must play it alone."
Yeah.
And then straight after that, all the men surrounding him all put the guns to the head, shoot them all in the shoot themselves in the head. Fucking hell, words. And then El Lazo puts gun up to his head and shoots himself as well.
Yeah.
And then the best line of the show, this episode, was "Fuck you, Robert" from from Man in Black as all the bodies hit the ground. And then him and Francis walk out. Don't know where they're heading next. Still on their journey, I guess. But he says, "I built this place we're going, and it's my greatest mistake."
Yeah.
Then you're like, what is this place they're talking about? What is this shit Dolores is talking about? Blah, 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 blah. Cut back to the past, and we get to have a hint or some idea of what it is. I don't know. William is in the Dolores Center with... the Delos Center with Dolores, doing the whole wake-up thing. And he has like a little bit of hatred in this scene, which I find interesting, because he's doing the whole... He's like, wake up now. Whatever they say when they wake up the host, and then William's kind of like, you really are just a fucking robot. Like, holding resentment as if she played him and like made she's the reason that he fell in love with her. Like, holds some sort of resentment towards her. Like, you just really are a fucking robot and blah blah blah. Nothing more, are you? But at the same time, you can still obviously tell that he has feelings for her, based on the trying to walk over to her when she was playing the piano, plus the fact he brings her outside in a second just to show her something now.
Yeah.
So it's just like this weird love-hate relationship thing he's got going on with Dolores. Takes her out to the park and says, have you ever seen something so full of splendor? Yeah. And then cuts to a shot of a bunch of cranes, dust everywhere.
Excavator, John Excavator, so he's terraforming the park.
Yeah.
Which also which I presume is out west, because that's where he's going currently, where Dolores is going. And also in the last episode, when they bring up the map, and there's a heat map of where all the hosts are, that's also to the west on that map as well.
Oh, okay.
And the theory that I think is going on is that underneath that lake, for some reason, there is maybe the weapon that they're talking about is like the blackmail, or where they build all the hosts that replace the other people.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the heat map of where all the hosts are looked a lot denser than what was there when they found all the dead hosts. So the theory is that they're under the lake too.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. At this stage, you kind of like, I thought it looked like a bridge, but like it's not a bridge. But like my initial reaction is
building like the ravine where the water will fill up.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was like, I don't fucking like building this. For some reason, when I first, my initial 1 second reaction, which you're then like, that's silly, but I was like, oh, he's like recreating a city or something, you know, like, I don't know what that would be, but that was just my initial thing. And then the last scene we get is you cut back to the present time. Dolores and Teddy arrive at Cliff Face or whatever, like looking down into the valley where the rest of the general and whoever else, the rest of them are there, presumably.
Yeah.
Confederates. Then she says, the valley beyond, it's not a place, it's a weapon. An old friend was foolish enough to show me a long time ago. Of course, just talking about the scene that we saw just before where William showed her. So, but her wording of it's a weapon could be just a play on words. They could be trying to red herring, chuck you something. Could not actually be directly, you know, a gun or cat. You know what people consider to be a weapon. It could be as saying like, if it's like a cloning place, then it's a weapon used against humanity. You know, like it could be a play on words, I guess. Yeah. So my thing after last week's episode, where I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do at the end of the episode. That whole segment kind of got fucking chucked out the thing because there's no scene. But I guess now that we're 2 episodes in, and I have some kind of idea of where we're going with the series, which is they're trying to head towards the place, the weapon place, or whatever you want to call that. That is where the show seems to be the headed, and the storyline's going to be. We're going to follow Man in Black plus Dolores on their track to get to there, I guess. And then what happens when they probably arrive there at the same time, because that's most likely what's going to happen. You've got Ford from Death if you want to believe he's still alive to some point, fucking with the Man in Black, and Dolores just she's going to have a lot more fun with it than he is. So I figured at the end of every week now, the proper question would be, considering we'll probably get more information or teasers and hints every episode, what is the weapon? Or what do you think the weapon is?
I reckon it's all the information they've collected.
So you're just going to say it's like a big archive factory where they're storing all of the hosts.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for it to be.
I guess. Sorry.
Unless there was like, I don't know, a host army, or like, it doesn't make sense for in the world to have like, oh, the weapon is, I don't know, a nuke or something like that.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't make sense. I feel like I definitely do feel like the word weapon is thrown in as
it's abstract.
It is abstract, to some degree. I guess it has to be something along those. I don't know if at the stage when William's building that thing though, like I don't know if they're at the stage where there's enough people coming into the park to have that be where it's at though. You know, I feel like that's more of a last 10 years thing, maybe. Yeah, because we're still like 29 years, I guess, at this stage when he's talking about building that thing and showing to Dolores and Charlotte. That's her name, right? From episode. She's talking more about it and she knows about it, but she wouldn't have been involved 30 years ago. No. I doubt they was doing it that long ago. So I'm gonna bit off, but it does make sense if that is actually the thing, but I'm not 100% sold on that theory, I guess. My go-to would be it's just where they are possibly building the technology or and storing that's where James is stored. That's where they're building these kind of cloney type things, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. How that's exactly considered a weapon, I don't know, but I suppose that's the facility. So that's not where they're not stealing people at this stage, but they could be storing a bunch of the hush stuff that only William knows about, James knows about and participated in, and then maybe a handful, like 2 other people, maybe. Like it's the secret inside the secret of the park. Why William has to go there and destroy it, I don't really know.
I think he's on an arc of redeeming himself of what he used to be. He's like trying to erase all his past mistakes, maybe.
Possibly, because at the moment they're still very much playing him, because we don't really know what he's doing in the series, so it's still very much he's the bad guy or not bad guy. Like he's not a good guy. They haven't gave us any information to make out like he is actually a good guy. And then the question is, why is Dolores going there? What does she get out of destroying a facility that houses clones?
Which goes back to is she just following a predestined story?
Unless she's just following the story that has been given to her by Robert.
Ford. Yeah.
By Ford, yeah. So, what do you think? The only other question going in, because we talked about the next week thing that we saw.
Yeah.
How do you think the tiger gets in, or what do you think the go there is with the parks, and how the tiger gets into the?
I don't know, because it's part of a thing that's been bugging me since I wanted to bring up last episode, but I never did. Was if it's China or some Middle Eastern Asian country, and it's their land, all that land is in tropical zones. How do they have a dry, arid climate where they are?
It's fake, I guess. I mean,
does that mean they control the climate, or does it mean, or does it also mean that maybe China or one of those has become a predominant government in the world, and they have so much land, and that also explains why there's like Asian characters on the buildings and all that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer is some sort of dome Hunger Games type shit where they can control the weather and day-night cycle, that type of thing.
I kind of feel that place to me at this present time where we are.
Yeah, and they haven't ever shown or hinted at that like they have control over
weather,
the weather or the world. Like they pause everything that is AI, like they can pause all the hosts. That makes sense. That's fine. You know, they have these underground facilities built, blah, 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 blah. But they definitely haven't ever shown that they can speed up or control the weather or nighttime, daytime cycle. Or actually, no, even if you think about season 1, they've had to go in at nighttime. And you'd think they'd probably, if they could change the lighting, just be like, oh, it's daytime.
Kind of like Truman Show type thing.
Truman Show type thing. Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know.
And then it also raises another question is, say, if BevanWorld is whatever, the next part, I can't imagine it's the same island, because India is tropical zone, a completely different climate to what Westworld would be as well.
I'm still sticking to my theory that it is a couple islands where maybe some of the islands have 2 worlds on them or something like that. But I don't believe that there's any way that you could have at least 6 that we know of, different worlds all set on one island, when especially like, say, because we know we've got what the fuck do you call the samurai world? Like, what's the
Shogun?
Yeah, you got the Shogun world coming. Like, that's set in a completely different landscape, everything to Westworld, and you're going to have it under the same sun. Yeah. You know, like the same weather controlling and all that happening.
And we don't know exactly how big each fucking park is either. Like, they make references, this is X amount of days right away and stuff like that, but no one has ever reached the edge of the park other than the coast where Bernard wakes up as well. So,
and it's big. We know Westworld's
it's massive.
Massive. So imagine,
they say the further you get out from the center, the more intense the game is.
The game gets, That's where you get into the cannibal people and whatever else is happening out there. So just imagine the size of Westworld, and then that times another 5. Like, you're talking about a continent that is bigger than any continent on Earth currently, I guess. Like, if you want to put it easy that way.
Plot twist, it's Australia.
Plot twist, it's Australia. It's just,
which it could be, because it has all the
Westworld's in climates. WA, and then they got fucking. I mean, sure. It's not impossible, I guess, but it's still. I still feel like the size of Westworld times another 5 at least is still bigger than the whole of Australia, I feel.
Yeah, I don't know. Australia's a pretty big place,
I suppose, but it still feels huge, like humongous.
But you remember, they're only traveling via
horseback and shit, but they have the train.
Yeah,
they have the train that we see Teddy arrive on. And that's
but
how you get into Westworld.
They come in on the train and then they leave on the train to get to the park. Yeah.
So, and that has to be a big enough train that goes around that it doesn't, it disappears into a tunnel that goes into goes into the Delos Center. So I don't know. This is, I really didn't think much about the whole extra parks, even though I knew it was going to be a thing in season 2 and season 1. Like, you just didn't think about it much.
No.
Even though, we knew there was Future World, the book and the movie from back in the day. and you knew there was going to be more Parker coming eventually, or presumed they would get into that eventually.
Yeah.
But it was just so much focused on what's happening story. And then this season, it's very much, I'm constantly like trying to figure out the geographical scale whenever they even mention something. I'm like, I don't see how this exactly fits into play, but I'm enjoying having different questions to think about, especially for stuff that I didn't have to think about in the first season. All right, wrapping up. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching live, thank you for watching live on twitch.tv/Explosion Network, where we stream BevanWorld every week, talking about the latest episode as we break down all the theories and discussions. If you're watching on YouTube, ring the fucking bell. I don't really know. ring the bell.
Ring the bell, smash that like button.
Whatever they say. If you're watching on Twitch, don't forget to click the follow button. Where can people follow you, Nick?
You follow me at Lord Empire, PRIOR.
You can follow me on Twitter at VivaLadil, VIVALADIL. We will be back next week at some point. We don't really have a lock-in time for this show because it's just, we've got to formulate the theories. You know, you got to have time to think about the hot bangers that no one on Twitter, I mean Reddit, even thinks about. Can even get right.
Yeah.
But we'll be here again next week. Thank you for joining us once again. BevanWorld. Until next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.